So in this video, we're going to talk about the presentation that Trump released yesterday of his new organization that's going to challenge big tech, social media, and much more. We're going to break down the whole presentation. It's awesome. I'm going to talk to you why it's so important, obviously, you think, but also why Trump is the one person, probably the only person, who can pull it all off. It's so exciting, and we're going to start right now. Hello, my name is Kyle, and in this video, we're going to go over the presentation that was presented to the internet from the Trump Media Technology Group. I'm so excited about this. I went over it a few times, and just the way it goes through, I'm going to comment on this all the way through and give my assessment on it. Being in a technology field myself, I have some questions in the back end, but the front end of how it's going to operate makes perfect sense in the landscape we now live in. Let's kick this thing off right now. It starts off with this presentation here where he does a company overview of Trump Media Technology Group. I'm imagining it's a startup company within his own Trump Corporation landscape. And from there, he goes into the mission statement of the organization. He says here that the TMTG, for short, will fight for the First Amendment protections and freedoms of all Americans, protect democracy, and defend capitalism. That is what I'm talking about. Here's the vision statement. This is even better. TMTG aspires to create a media powerhouse to rival the other liberal consortiums and fight back against big tech companies of Silicon Valley who have used their unilateral power to silence opposing voices in America. In January 2021, big tech, Facebook, Twitter, and other pages began to forcibly silence President Donald J. Trump and many other conservative voices. So remember when that happened after the thing that went down in January? Many conservatives just scrambled because at that point in time, big tech laid down the hammer, and we saw it across the board. We had to go to other platforms and so forth, and it just became crazy. People were on Telegram, people were on this new entity called Parler, people were going over to Gab, but it was all dispersed. It was keeping us separated, and no one really wanted to come back into one umbrella because there's so many options, and just the learning curve for each one is ridiculous. And that is important to understand as we get further into this particular analysis. If big tech can censor the president of the United States, then they can censor anyone. Ain't that the truth? To counter this liberal bias and dangerous exercise of tech monopoly censorship, Donald J. Trump and the TMTG intend to create a media and technology company rooted in social media, digital streaming, and information technology, infrastructure, and more. In the year 2021, the media pendulum has swung dangerously far to the left. TMTG intends to even the playing field. I absolutely love it. We're gonna get further into this. I can talk more on this, but we'll do that as this particular video goes on. Third slide. Here we have a picture of the headlines that came out. Tech monopoly censorship threatens free speech. What happened to freedom of speech? Liberal tech media outlets flex unilateral power to silence opposing voices. Like I said, back in January, it was en masse. They were coming after everyone, taking off whole channels. People that have been on for years, on YouTube especially, just gone. No warning, gone. And it was just like green light was given, and that happened. After that, there's some molesting of the reins, but the damage in a lot of ways had already been done. Other freedoms are at risk. What happened to America's voice? Social media imbalance has dangerous consequences. Yeah, this organization in particular, we see here where Twitter bans the US president, but keeps other organizations that are very unsavory. What is up with that? Here you have the key structure of what they're trying to do. The first phase is a social media platform called Truth Social. They're going after Twitter, they're going after Facebook, those guys, that media sphere. And then the second phase, TMTG Plus, which is going to be like a Disney Plus streaming service and a news service to go after the Netflix, the Disney Pluses, CNNs, and iHeartRadio. So in this far section here, they're looking at long-term opportunity for tech stack with like AWS, which is Amazon's cloud service. You have Google Cloud and Stripe, which is payment gateways. But they're going after all of this stuff in terms of a business solution that big companies can run on. So Christian companies like, Chick-fil-A could run their software using TMTG. So essentially, President Trump is building the infrastructure for a landscape in which this country truly is divided, unfortunately, where you have red states can operate in this area and everyone else can operate in the current area. And it really is necessary because one of the things about this company is a cancel-free culture, a cancel-free landscape. We'll get to that in a second here. They go into the history of the US media and the political segmentation that I just mentioned before. Newspapers, radio, and cable TV news have split along ideological lines. Will social media soon follow? Well, in my opinion, it already has. It goes through history here. By 1796, two political parties dominate the political landscape, the Federalist Party and the Democrat-Republican Party. It goes on to 1849, talking about the gold rush, all the way out to the 1880s, we have radio, because prior to that, it would have been print media. Then you go on to the 90s with cable television. CNN launches in 1980, MSNBC, in 1996. On to 2021, where social media reigns, and now we have the whole paradox change, where now we are in a network media age, where we talked about that on other videos in this channel. So by January 9th, 2021, Parler, a conservative social media app, we mentioned that before in this video, becomes the #1 downloaded app before being forcibly removed from Apple and Google stores. And that is something that we had never seen before. We just did a video on Parler on how to use it, and then next thing you know, 2 weeks later, you can no longer use it. So that was very discouraging. So this is what TMTG is trying to resolve, and I think it's a fantastic idea. And President Trump really is the only person that can kind of pull this off. In fact, he's the only one that can pull this off because he's got all the pieces you need to do this, which is what made him such an incredible president. We've had several segments throughout the years in the timeline of information sharing, whether it be print media, which is 50 million in the 1880s, or double that to radio in the 1980s, or double that to television in the 1990s, all the way to 330 million in social media where we are today. And this is why President Trump is the ideal person to actually pull this off. His historic social media following, 89 million followed him on Twitter, 24.5 million followed him on Instagram, and 33 million followed him on Facebook, giving you a grand total of 146.5 million followers in social media. So that's a huge following, and it gets even better than that when you look at the sizing of the digital audience. This slide here simply shows that media is growing from Netflix to podcasts to Twitter to Disney Plus to others. It's growing in some rates exponentially, and I think TMTG is actually going to get in on this and make a very successful run. And to me, I think TMTG is positioned perfectly right now, given we see the growth here on all these different platforms going up. It's only going to get bigger as the population of the country increases. So now freedom-loving citizens who have businesses, or citizens who are just trying to run their lives, can now have confidence that they're not going to be canceled simply because of their political or religious views. Like I said before, they said building a non-cancelable global community. One thing I mentioned about Trump early in 2016 was that he was going to be a big tent type of politician for the Republican Party, and that he was. He brought more people from more diverse areas, from languages to religions to skin tone to everything, to backgrounds to whatever you want to say. The Republican Party got way more diverse under Trump, but they all came under the same umbrella of the melting pot of this country was founded on, and that's the idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is what the core foundation of MAGA is all about. It's about loving this country and defending this country and giving everyone individual freedoms to live their lives with government being out of our way. And this here is what Trump's historic following was all about in terms of his following. This is why he has such a big following with liberal, independent, and conservatives. The Hill put out a poll saying that 1/3 would use a Trump-backed social media platform. And here you have right there, the 30% there, the light blue. Over here, the cross tabs are the Dems and the GOP and independents, 24% for them, 54% for GOP, and 12% for Democrats. And what we're talking about here is a moderate piece of a huge pie, and this would be totally sustainable, and the growth would be immense because it would only pick up more steam. But the initial push, he would have at least that many on board from day one. As the country gets more Marxist and people will lose more freedoms, it's going to grow even further. That's just how things are going to work because people want to live their lives, like I said before. Here you have it, the truth. Here's some promo apps here. It's going to be made available, I believe, on Apple if you have an invite. I don't know if anyone has an invite to send me. Please recommend me to get an invite on this. I would love to sample this out, try it out. I think it's coming out in November, maybe even first quarter of next year. I would love to be part of this initial launch. Here it goes on to more information about what they're trying to do in terms of their mission statement. And here they have here that conservative following could provide a catalyst for truth and social growth. They have a little chart here about Trump in red, Biden in blue, and how the number of followers on social media, it's not even close. This could be huge. And also they're talking about TMTG, online digital programming. Seems like everyone has a digital programming now. Everyone's got their own thing. Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, Amazon, all that. They all have their own streaming services because it's cheap for these companies to do that because they have their own content. They don't have to burn a Blu-ray or DVD. They can just shoot it out there and people can download it for minimal cost to the company. So why not do it? So this piece within the overall business model makes a lot of sense. And I could not wait to see what kind of content that they can line up there. As the following and subscription base gets bigger, the more people that will come to the platform because money talks at the end of the day. If it becomes big enough, it won't matter. They'll get all the content that the other people have as well because they have a bigger platform. And see, here's the thing. Trump has always been on the forefront of innovation when it comes to this sort of thing. He's a marketing genius, and he's been involved in 80s and 90s and 2000s. He's always been around, and when he became president, it was just a next logical jump for him. So he's always been in the limelight. When he was real estate tycoon in Manhattan, when he had the hotels and the casinos and the boxing matches with Tyson and WrestleMania, all of those, he was a media mogul. Of course, The Apprentice was huge, amazingly huge, and then of course became president. So he encompasses everything that you would need to pull something like this on. You would need the followers, you would need the name, you would need the prestige, you would need the financial backing, you would need the clout, the name recognition, all of that, the free and unearned media that he's going to get from this. All of that is going to come into play, and it seems like this is going to be a no-brainer. So from day one, it's already going to be a huge launch. So what are your thoughts on all of this? What are your thoughts on TMTG, the Trump Media Technology Group? What they're trying to do, the 3 tiers from social media to digital streaming, all the way out into big business, all the way to cloud computing, big business, and payment gateways. What are your thoughts on that scope of all this? And do you think we even need this? Do you think Trump's overreacting? If you're new to this channel, you might, but most people would say no. We are definitely going too far to the left, and we need something to combat that from a basic infrastructure level because these big tech companies have overstepped their bounds. They are no longer just providers of services. They're becoming also the media, and they're becoming the oversight for the federal government, which I believe edging them on to do things that they can't themselves constitutionally do. Here at The Conservative Take, we take pop culture and politics and we frame it in a conservative manner. We filter things right. If you like that, we have more content for you that you may like right